say that Aston Martin have been the biggest disappointment of this season, I don't think you'll find many people disagreeing with me. And I want to talk about the team because they have just lost 4th in the Constructors' Championship to McLaren, who were hopeless at the start of the year. They have fallen off massively from where they were. Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are on the Silverstone-based team down in the comments below, and if you're going to enjoy the video, then do make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Formula 1 content, but let's get into it. Cast your minds back to February and pre-season testing, which frankly seems like it was a lifetime ago. But after recovering as the 2022 season went on to go from having one of the worst cars at the start of the year to finishing 7th, tied with Alfa Romeo in 6th, they rocked up to 2023 pre-season testing with a car that was quite different to the previous year's Challenger. As the 3 days of running happened, the hype surrounding the Silverstone-based team only grew, as it seemed they had something good. And the hype was justified come the opening race of the season because they were there. Stroll actually having a really solid performance despite missing all of testing and having a dodgy hand, and Fernando Alonso scoring a podium on his Aston Martin debut. Okay, did he kinda inherit that podium from Ferrariing again? Well, in my opinion, yeah. I think Leclerc would have held on to the podium if his car didn't die on him, but that's racing, and a podium is a podium. But the form from Aston Martin continued as the races went on. In fact, the first 8 races, Alonso scored 6 podiums and had 2 front row starts, both of which were inherited from the driver who qualified P2, getting a penalty or already having a penalty heading into proceedings, but again, that's racing. The point is, Aston Martin were cooking in the first races of the season. Stroll was more inconsistent, but if you look at his F1 racing record, inconsistency has been a reoccurring theme. They started the season with the second best car. Alonso consistently made himself a podium threat as one of the strongest non-Red Bull drivers. Apart from Spain, where he was half a minute or so off of P3, finishing down in P7, even in Azerbaijan, when Leclerc beat him to the podium and always had an answer to what the Spaniard did, Alonso kept the pressure on him and did finish less than a second behind the Ferrari driver. It really was the Aston Martin of the teams that were trying to close the gap to Red Bull were the strongest, and they were in the strongest position, they looked in the best position to do so. But then they started to develop the car and bring upgrades, as did their rivals, and that's where it's all gone downhill. First Mercedes passed them for 2nd, then Ferrari passed them for 3rd. And now McLaren have passed them for 4th. As they've developed the car and brought upgrades, they haven't exactly improved like their rivals have. Mercedes got their act together and have improved, and they passed them. Ferrari got their act together and have improved. Okay, to an extent anyways, and passed them. McLaren really got their act together and really improved and passed them. To the point where Norris the other week said he was thinking about catching Ferrari for 3rd as something that was doable for McLaren. I wouldn't say if I agree with that comment or not, but last time I made a comment about McLaren's performance, specifically disagreeing with something that was said about McLaren's performance, it's aged like milk. Saying that McLaren could challenge Red Bull come the end of the season. Yeah, as in not had a brilliant start to the year midfield McLaren challenging ahead of literally every single team on the grid by a margin Red Bull. There is like, I'd say consistently 4 teams between Red Bull and McLaren in terms of performance. And my first thought when I saw this was, is Hakkinen on something, or is age starting to get to him? Though he thought the only surprise we'd see would be from McLaren's possible progression over the next few months, and he thought they would surprise us massively, and in terms of the speed of their car, they'd probably challenge Red Bull. I'm sorry. Even as I say that, I'm still wondering, what is that man on? I mean, he is Finnish. Maybe it's the drink that Kimi never got. Though honestly, if you ask me, there is no way McLaren will be challenging Red Bull come the end of the year.
A few moments later.
And the British Grand Prix is go! And so is Lando Norris straight up into the lead past Max Verstappen. Lando Norris back on the 2nd step of the podium. Lando Norris in 2nd place. Good reaction time, Oscar Piastri. Round the outside goes Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri has taken the shootout. Oscar Piastri wins the sprint. Oscar Piastri 2nd in the Grand Prix, 3rd in the race for Lando Norris. Lando Norris takes his 12th career podium.
I'm not trying to jinx Ferrari over here. I mean, I am a Ferrari fan, after all. But how did it all go so wrong for Aston Martin? They've gone from having the 2nd fastest car to the, what, 5th, 6th best car or something. Both out in Q1 in Austin, they have fallen so far. I think if you told someone at the start of the season that in Austin, both Aston Martins would be out in Q1 and they would that weekend fall to 5th in the constructor standings, not one single person would believe you. We were all asking at the start of the year, could Alonso score win 33? In fact, I think a lot of us thought that it was a certainty that if Red Bull faltered a weekend, he could be there. He would be the one to be there to win the race, and it would be a 33rd win for Fernando Alonso. We were talking about the possibility of Alonso in the coming years scoring a 3rd world championship, being the driver to take Aston Martin to winning a championship. I did a video on it, for God's sake. Aston Martin are managing to do it. They have ambitions, and I do think that if they can keep this up in the coming years and keep up with the likes of the Red Bull, the Ferrari, and the Mercedes in terms of, development and all that kind of stuff, and if they can keep at the top, then they can challenge for championships, especially with Fernando Alonso, who I do think if Aston Martin can keep their shit together, he can take that 3rd title with the Silverstone-based team if they keep up this momentum. We were all thinking that for once in his career, Fernando Alonso has made a good career move. Well, looking at it now, did he? Did he really? Because I'm not so sure now. But I'm looking at his move to Aston kind of in a similar way to how I looked at it when it was first announced, in that I think he made a mistake. Aston Martin have ambitions of fighting for championships. Lawrence Stroll has sunk a lot of money into this project. He wants to bring the team to winning championships, fighting for the championship, being consistently up there, weekend in, weekend out, but they have a long way to go until they can do that, because in order to even try and put yourself into that position, you need to have everything there. You need to have a good car at its base, you need to be able to develop it in the right direction, which isn't exactly something they've been doing. The team needs to be all 100% there, and I'll get to the drivers in a second. But quite frankly, do I see them challenging for a championship? Well, no. No, I don't. They improved from one of the worst cars to being solidly in the midfield challenging for points come the end of the season last year, and they improved massively over the winter but couldn't keep it up and have fallen back as the season went on. And that kind of reminds me a little of 2020 heading into 2021. In 2020 with their pink Mercedes, they were solidly top of the midfield and would have finished P3 if they didn't get deducted 15 points for copying Mercedes. Given the 2021 cars were really more of an evolution of the 2020 cars, then they should have been in a good place for 2021, but they weren't. They screwed it up. They had their moments, yes, but frankly, they were rubbish. They, in 2020, like the start of 2023, were in a good place towards the top of the proceedings, but when it came to development and moving upwards and proceeding to actually challenge further upwards, they couldn't do it. They can do it when it's from a base of being rubbish, but from a base of being already good, they can't seem to. And honestly, it's been such a disappointment to watch them go from where they were to where they are now this year. And also, when it comes to challenging for titles, you need 2 strong drivers, which they don't really have, and that's where the factor of Lance Stroll comes into things. And frankly, I do think he's holding the team back, but I'm not going to start tearing into Lance Stroll, because that's really the gist of my thoughts on the Canadian. But looking into the coming years, I did say in my 2025 prediction video that I expected Alonso to stay with the team for 2025, and I do stand by that. I do still think that. I don't think he'll be done at the end of 2024, but frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up calling it quits at the end of 2024 if the team don't start pulling themselves out of the hole they're currently finding themselves going into. I mean, Alonso kind of has already sat through this whole thing of being with a team hoping it'll be good, but then it doesn't end up being good and they end up going backwards. Like, he's done that before. I don't think he'll want to do it again. What are your thoughts on Aston Martin this year? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.